it's Jim with My Garage. And guess who's back? We got Juan Gonzalez from Richard Francis and Associates. Make sure you call 805-8888 before it's too late.
That is so wrong, Jimmy. Wake up. It's 485-8888 before it's too late.
I did that on purpose. I was just waiting for your head to pop right there. When you need to dial 911, make sure you dial 805-485-8888.
That's right.
So you were off having some fun.
I actually went to go and
Check on the wall.
no, check out the completion of a project that I have going in Mexico.
Oh, wow.
It's nice to send money over there, but you want to make sure you see the final product, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. You got to
So,
follow it. Just make sure
that's
everything
right.
you wanted to get built got built. A local Rotary does a lot of work down there with the hospital in Tijuana, and it's a big thing, and it does good for a lot of the youngsters, especially there.
Yes,
So
well,
nice.
I was south of that. I was south of Puerto Vallarta, north of Manzanillo, on the Pacific side of the ocean there, and beautiful place.
I went to Manzanillo, and we ran the beach that Bo Derek ran.
You did?
Yes, that's where that movie was.
I think we should
filmed.
play. We should play the theme of that song today.
Bolero.
Bolero.
It is Bolero. So let's talk about My Garage. Now, we were chatting off air a little bit here, and we did kind of want to get into the onset of all this and how it happened. From your early days, we found out Boy Scout who almost became Eagle, but ended up in Japan because Dad was military. Is that correct?
I'm a Navy brat, yeah. We lived in Okinawa for a little over 4 years in Okinawa, Japan, and I was a Boy Scout when we lived in upstate New York, and when we moved there, got back into it, and just needed a service project when we moved back here to the United States. But when I was there is when I got into cars heavily. I was 16 when we left and started building cars, and when we came back to the United States, when I was a senior in high school, I started a car audio business called Competition Auto Sound and Security. And one of your DJs here, we did a sound system for him. I believe.
Which one?
Well, his name's John Manzella, but
Jay
actually
Scratch?
Jay Scratch. Yeah. So
Everybody's kung fu fighting.
yeah. So that was kind of like one of the things that we did back then. So I did car audio for many years, and got out of it and started a construction company. And when I did car audio, it was not just doing audio; it was building vehicles. I built over a dozen vehicles for manufacturers that bit at shows, SEMA, CES, things of that nature. And your phone's
It
ringing.
could be for me.
They need to dial the 650-1590.
Yes,
if
that
they
would
wanna
be
get
more
into that
direct, and
better.
then they won't have that ridiculous ringing. I want to jump back to Japan here. What was the car culture like there? What were they driving? Because here, was that like when muscle cars were still happening? Like, what era was that?
That was a long time ago. That was in the early 80s.
Okay.
And it's really it's very similar to what we have here. It's just the JDM stuff out here is kind of like we're like it's almost 5 to 10 years behind their what's going on over there than what's happening here. They your typical like back in the 80s big. I don't know, a lot of people remember the mini trucks, and we put like a 15 by 10 wheel stretch with a 195 50/15 on it, and that was like the big thing. And I'm like, well, that's funny because they've been doing that for years over in Japan, but it's just not catching off. And mini trucks are huge. And then that kind of petered out, and then you started getting into the Hondas and the Civics and Celicas and whatnot. And over there, that's, the Skyline was huge, and motorcycles. Bosozoku is actually a more motorcycle-orientated thing, but it carries over, and it's kind of a term for racing gangs and stuff like that. And we, as a kid, I'd go to the drag races every Friday and Saturday night, out there on Route 58 and watch the races all night long. And then the police would come and everybody would scatter. And it was huge. I mean, the car culture over there is ginormous, compared to here. Because, it's nothing like it is here.
Really? Because when I was a kid, everybody back then, it was the era of GTOs and everybody
Camaros,
the muscle car.
Mustangs.
Yeah, the Roadrunners was a big thing, and it was fun, and everybody had their hood popped in the parking lot at the high school that had a car like that, and everybody stood around nodding and looking at it, and I knew 90% of them had no idea what they were looking at, but one or two guys were wrenchers, and they ended up doing really, really good for themselves. And it's funny to look back at the power that was available then and the power that you have now.
Well, I mean, I think you still have the power now. It's just in a smaller package.
But still as powerful.
Oh yeah, I mean, you have You know, some of these cars are pushing out 250 horsepower, which, you know, when you think back in the day, they ought to V8 and had 187. You're like, ooh, okay.
Yeah, that's
you
big
know,
time.
unless you built it. But you're talking about hoods open. I mean, who remembers cruising Main Street in Ventura or Saviors Road? I mean, that's the, you know, in the 80s, what I remember going down to LA, you know, and Hollywood and stuff.
East
cruising
LA.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
Cruising East LA.
Such a big deal.
You know, so it's, I mean, there's cultures where I mean, you have the lowriders with hydraulics and things that, you know, technology, I think, is, you know, really developed a lot of these new styles that have come out and stuff like that are really awesome. So
So you raced a bit and you did all of that. You worked on cars. What led you to motorcycles in my garage?
ironically, we race cars. I built my own race cars. We weld, we fabricate, do all that kind of stuff. And then we got a ride where a guy said, you know, we want you to build a car for you. So I helped him build a car, and I enjoyed it. And since from my high school days building cars, one thing led to another. And I own a construction company called Tri-County Building. And that evolved into starting a company called Tri-County Motor Works because I was private, dealing with manufacturers still building stuff for SEMA. And that was kind of like my getaway time. My son graduated, wanted to get into the business, and we started, you know, we went public with Tri-County Motor Works, and we were on Del Norte. And bottom line is customers like, you work on motorcycles? I'm like, no. Road? I've been riding motorcycles since I was 16. We're lifting trucks and cars and doing this, that, whatever, modifications. And it just got to the point where it was ridiculous. I'm like, okay, well, let me look into that market a little bit. And it took off. I mean, it was huge. I mean, literally probably within a year and a half, that's when I met Juan. I was at the original store over there. And within like a year and a half, cars were out the
Gone.
back door. Yeah. You know, I had a hoist. I mean, we had all kinds of stuff to do cars, had everything you need to do, but it was just so, you know, back burner, it didn't even matter. And then the motorcycle thing got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I had a guy that was working with us, and he basically came in one day and said, hey, you know, my garage, they're going to close their doors at the end of the month, which was December. And I said, well, I think it's my time to go make an offer. And we bought my garage. So we've just been getting bigger over the years. Now I don't know, I think I have too big of a headache sometimes, but we're big.
So when it comes to wrenching, could you, Juan Gonzalez, wrench your own motorcycle?
No.
I have Jimmy for that.
You shouldn't wrench and he shouldn't represent, right? And that's where it goes. So you've got the two there. Now, it seems like that's a turn, because again, and I'm going way back to on any Sunday in the motorcycle days, a kid could get a Hidako, he could get the bike to race dirt and have a lot of fun over at Baymare. We used to go to Indian Dunes. And the father and son could pretty much handle everything that had to be done. And you could buy parts relatively cheap and get it done. That seems to have changed.
It's changed dramatically, and the technology. You know, I used to ride with my dad when I was a little kid, stick me on the front of the gas tank in an Enduro back in the 70s. And, you know, back then things are a lot more simple. Now they're, you know, like with the new Harleys more specifically, everything's electronic. So we have a computer system. We can log into the ECM and read a bunch of different things that the average Joe doesn't have access to or need to be able to, you know, change if you wanted to make a change. You know, but there again, there's some people that need to be. If working on motorcycles is easy, everybody be doing it, because it's not that it's not as easy as one thinks, and it's time consuming. You know?
My point, Tom, is that I would be afraid to work on anything with the braking system, especially the braking system, because when you need the brakes, you have to have the brakes working in proper order, right? That'd be one of them. So I just let the experts deal with that. I'm more comfortable when I ride. I know that when it's time to change the oil or whatever, you know, whatever maintenance schedules that the bikes offer you for you to have. I just make sure that Jimmy takes care of it, and I feel safer that way.
Yeah, get it done correctly. Because another thing, when somebody tries something at home, it's probably good news for you, because then there's more to fix.
Yeah, we're having to go backwards in order to go forward, you know, sometimes. And it's kind of funny, on our wall we have a, you know, if you worked on it, if you watch, it's always more, and if you worked on it before, it's even more money. But really the thing of it is that we are busy. And I encourage, if somebody comes in and they want to work on their bike themselves, I'm like, hey, you support me by buying the parts from me, I will give you tech support. Because one of the things we do as companies, we're actually with some companies for product development stuff, we give them help. So we're also wanting to give our customers help to say, You know, you're going to service it. Okay, this is how you do it. Here's a checklist. These are the parts I recommend that you use, so it's done correctly. Because especially if you're to maintain the factory warranty. So we're here, tech support, everything about the purchase. You know, from start to the end, we're here to take care of you.
And that's my garage. Every Sunday when I go whipping through off Wells, I see the big truck there with the arrow that points. Where are you exactly?
We're in Old Town Satakoy. Somebody told me to say Old Town Satakoy, but we're literally in downtown Satakoy, and it's 11107 Violetta Street, right on the corner of Los Angeles Avenue on Violetta.
Now, Juan Gonzalez, the law firm there that you work for is one of the premier firms that helped me out of a gigantic headache that I had. I cannot stress how much I made one call and I never heard anything again but good things.
Thank you, Tom.
Prior to that, I heard a lot of noise. You guys took over. It was easy, as it should be, when it wasn't even my fault. But when you get into a wreck of any kind, especially with your friends on motorcycles, you guys take extra care. So how do we reach you?
You can reach us by showing up at 711 South 8th Street in Oxnard, California, or calling us at 805-485-8888. And this show is brought to you by the law offices of Richard Francis and Associates.
And you got to be safe with your bike. Make sure it gets the best work available, which you will get from My Garage. All the parts, accessories, everything you need are there at My Garage.
We have everything from front to back, top to bottom for
And
your
he's
Harley
got
Davidson.
tires.
Oh, we have lots of
tires.
tires. And let me say something real quick for Juan. I recommend putting in 805-485-8888 before it's too late in your phone, and have it on one of your favorites, because you know they're going to be one of the people you want to call first, besides 911, or if it's a major accident or something like that, because they're there to help. Because I can't tell you how many times I've had customers, family, and sometimes you have an attorney that's just not quite giving you your due. They can also take that over and take care of that as well. He might yell at me for that later, but and I also definitely want to have 805-983-6400 in there, because that's our phone number to My Garage, and we're there to take care of you.
Everything is going to be taken care of. Make sure your bike runs safely. If anything comes up, again, the number.
805-485-8888 before it's too late.
And we found out you were in a movie with Linda Blair.
I told you that, huh?
That is awesome. And you were also in the Freddie Prinze movie.
I was at CBS, what was that, the movie of the week?
Yeah, it was one of those. Who played Freddie?
I can't recall anymore.
Isn't that
It was so
Yes.
long ago.
It was,
It
but
is.
you know
Was
what?
that black and white?
That was
No.
that was such a oh man, that was such a big deal. And you were like a stand-in.
I worked
guy in the
stand-in.
back.
That's where I learned a lot of my techniques for acting now.
Sure.